All right. The Great Bambi 42. We are here at the Mode campus. Today, my guest is Adam Smith, head coach over at Smash Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. How you doing, man?
Great, honestly. I just got back from Italy, so I'm really good now.
Damn. Well, I mean, geez, talk about that. I mean, get in. Let's start there. What were you out there for?
Well, actually, I was out there because I'm working on opening an academy out in Athens, Greece, and I've got a good friend out there, and he actually had a wedding, so I went to a Greek wedding, traditional Greek wedding in Greece, which was super cool. And then from there, Noah and I, actually one of my students, we flew to Rome and rented a car, and we drove from Rome to Florence, Italy, and then Venice. We did the boats in Venice, like the ones they're pretty much in cartoons. I think the guy with the top hat and the big
Damn.
poles and stuff, and then we went from there to Verona, and then to Milan, where everybody talks about buying all the rich people with the bags and stuff like that, to Genova, which is a nice, really cool town that's like on the right on the sea there. That's beautiful buildings and stuff. And then we went to Pompeii and saw Naples, and ended in the Colosseum in Rome. So it was pretty cool. And the Vatican, we were at the Vatican on Monday, and then they chose a pope on Wednesday, an American pope. It was pretty crazy. So
That's awesome, man. I know you've had Noah Connors at your gym for quite a while now, yeah?
Noah started with me when he was like 15 years old, and now, I mean, he's a black belt now. He's, everybody knows him in the area that competes because he's kind of put a name for himself out there with competition, MMA, and jiu-jitsu. So, man, the kid's a savage. He's my best training partner. He's 210 pounds and 6'2" and just an animal.
That must have been a cool experience to be able to bring him out too, to like see that. Has he been out of the country? And
Actually, we got a chance to go to Brazil actually
that's
earlier
right.
in the year, so which was great because to be able to do jiu-jitsu and go to Brazil and kind of test yourself to see if you're legit, which helped him get his black belt. He went to Brazil, and the kid, was really tearing it up against some legit Brazilian black belts at some really legit academies. So after that, we've been to Mexico one other time too, and this time we're kind of on the world traveling now. We get a chance to train all over the world. Then we did some teaching out there in Greece. We trained at an army base in Italy, in northern Italy, with some real savage, army guys, which is super cool. One guy was like Superman. He was like most perfect looking human ever, and he was tough. D1 wrestler. Was good.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I feel like you're one of the premier uh, gyms out here in Spokane at this point. I guess I kind of want to just take it back, take it back to the very beginning, your story, whoever's watching this maybe doesn't know how your MMA journey. So yeah, let's take it back. What are your earliest memories of mixed martial arts?
Sure, so I've been doing karate since I was a little kid. My mom got us into karate. My grandmother actually got us in, my brothers into karate. And when we were little, we grew up with a single mother and stuff like that. And so I got to kind of the pinnacle of karate. I would win all the tournaments in the Northwest, and I loved doing the kata, which is like the forms, and you kind of do some demonstration. And then by the time I was about 18 and I'd won all that stuff, I'm like, man, what's the next step? What do I want to do next? And I was looking for the next level of competition. MMA started getting like popular and stuff, and I thought, I'm tough, dude. I can go out there and kick somebody's butt, no problem. I could win all these karate things, and then so I remember I was like 19, and my instructor and I decided I was gonna do a fight, and I called up Rick Little, for the Excite fight, and he got me on the show, and I fought on the same card as Mike Chiesa was on the. He was actually the main event. It was Northwest Elite versus Sick Jitsu, and Chiesa was the main event, and he fought. He won that night, and I was actually on the undercard. It was like one of the first fights, and it was my first fight ever. And I fought some guy straight out of the military. He had a jiu-jitsu background. I think he was a blue belt at the time. I had no jiu-jitsu, whatever. And I remember so vividly getting out there, and I was like very like conservative. I never even took my shirt off hardly in front of people because I was kind of chunky when I was younger, and I had this body dysmorphia thing. So I remember being out there and like no shirt on, the wind's whisping by my nipples. I got like 50 people like in the front row, and they're staring at me like, oh, ready for me to kick this guy's butt. Most intimidating thing I think ever. If you know about getting in the cage, it's the craziest thing. And so I got out there, and the guy comes out, and he's shredded, ripped, white guy, bald, military haircut. And I was just like, oh, crap. I thought, okay, here it goes. The referee says go, Anthony Hamlet. I get out there, just start punching, come right across the ring. I still pretty much do the same thing nowadays. As soon as I say fight, I'm here to fight. And so I came across the cage and started punching, boom, boom, boom. And I always tell everybody this. I keep punching this guy, and I'm hitting him and hitting him. And then next thing I know, I'm punching the fence. I was like, what's going on? I'm punching the
Dropped him.
fence, and the guy's just gone. I was so tunnel visioned. I was just, and I was like, where is this guy? I remember stop punching the fence, and I was like, the guy ducked underneath my punches and just grabbed my body, sucked me down to the ground. And I remember looking for him, like, where is this guy? And I'm looking up at my coach, and he just grabs me around, gets me a rear naked choke, and as he's choking me, I'm still looking for him. And then I tapped to a rear naked choke, and I was like, wow. I thought it was way tougher than that.
Damn.
Like, it just got me. So I thought, I'm going to keep doing this MMA. And then from there, I kept training and trained with some of the toughest guys around. I trained with Chiesa and stuff when he was in his early days, and some Dave Kershane and Lyle Beerbaum and some of the pioneers in the area. So.
Yeah, that's wild. I mean, I didn't know that your first fight was on Rick's card. Like, what's your relationship with Rick Little today?
Yeah, I mean, Rick gave me my start, really. He put me on the first card. I fought on Rick's card like many times. I think you can even still possibly look me up on Sherdog, and it says I'm a Sick Jitsu fighter, actually, So Rick and I have been friends for many years. I spent a lot of time traveling with him, going to fights. He cornered me and stuff. I fought on a show in Milwaukee one time that he got me on over there. It was a title fight against a really well-known guy. So he's been in my corner a bunch of times. Rick's been somebody that followed my journey. He's supported my academies and stuff. So this next event that we're going to put on is going to be like an Excite Fight amateur series. So we're really looking at developing the next level of athletes now, right? This is something now that the sport's changing.
Mm-hmm.
And so instead of getting these street thug guys that were just, wanted to fight because they want to make themselves look cool, they want the girl and the fame and the money. Now you have young athletes that are training since they were younger, and they put time and effort into it. They've been doing jiu-jitsu, and they've been striking since they were young. And now we need to have a good outlet for them. Something a safe place, a really good one that they can compete on. As much as I like competing at the casinos, there's just a whole thing about competing at a casino.
For sure.
It's like when you're 16, 17 years old, I don't really think that's the place you need to be going, much less competing there and stuff.
Yeah.
So we're going to take it down to Riverfront Park. We're right in the center of Spokane. It's the park, an iconic venue, something that's brought a lot of people here to the city. And it's a real great place to start for these young athletes, especially ones that, like I said, these are ones that deserve to be on a show like that because they're training with legit academies. They put the time in for years past and stuff. So I look forward to kind of developing this new way we can get these athletes to some of these bigger shows. And then by the time they are, put some work in and have some wins under their belt, then we elevate them to the next level of shows, which is some of those casino ones that can, Dana White's been to Rick's shows at Excite Fight and stuff. So if you want to get somewhere, that's in the Northwest right now, Excite Fight's building names of bigger fighters. So
Yeah, I know you were doing Spokane Submission Series 2. Talk about your transition from being a professional athlete to like promoting, basically.
Yeah, I love being an athlete, and it's like I still get out there to compete and stuff myself. But I had hip replacement surgery, and so I was sidelined because I couldn't compete anymore. I couldn't walk anymore, and so I had 4 surgeries over the course of 4 years, which sidelined me. And during that time, I was like, I wanted to do something to continue with the sport. I had gotten very depressed because you can't when you're a professional athlete, and that's what you do every day, and then all of a sudden you can't do it anymore. And it's like really hard to deal with. And so I was just trying to fill my time with something else that was positive and just kind of kept me into it. And then I started working on doing, professional level competition. And now I've developed the Spokane Submission Series and that's now the Pit Fighting Championship. We bring in some of the highest level athletes in the world. Honestly, we've had Helena Cravar compete. She's got hundreds of thousands of followers. She's the best female in the world. Mason Fowler's been there. Chael Sonnen's come to the promotion. It's not just a tiny little show anymore. Now it's on Flow Grappling, and in the Northwest, there's not even another show on Flow Grappling, and Flow's the biggest outlet you can be on. So now I promote a promotion that's going to be one of the biggest in the country, and we bring, like I said, some of the best athletes there are, and it's just another opportunity for me to help elevate some of these young athletes in the sport, even some of the older athletes, help them get some notoriety and stuff. So.
Yeah, I filmed Spokane subseries when you did it at the convention center in
Yeah.
downtown Spokane, and man, I just gotta say, like, you put on a great show. Like, you go the extra mile. Like, you're not. It seems like you're not in it just for a cash grab. Like, I can make a little bit of money off this thing. You're really trying to build this promotion and like make it a really good experience for the fans.
Yeah, I mean, I promise you, the most honest. I've actually lost tens of thousands of dollars in this already. I mean, I've already spent a lot of money in it, and I don't make anything. Actually, it's a nonprofit organization, and it's something because when I was a kid, I couldn't afford to do martial arts lessons, and my instructor scholarshiped me ever since I was a kid. He paid for my lessons so that I could compete, and so ever since then, it's really my duty now that I have schools is to be able to give back to people. And so the name of my nonprofit is now Give Back Tournaments. We've given over $10,000 away to different athletes, actually about 20,000 now in scholarships to help them do different sports, to travel for wrestling tournaments, get gear and stuff like that. So I'm really hoping that I can, develop this nonprofit to be something that really makes an impact within our combat sports organizations. And like I said, that's what changed my life. And so hopefully I can do the same. If I did it for one other kid, man, I'd be stoked.
Yeah, I know you have Chael Sonnen also like shouting you out, giving you praise. Like, what's your relationship with Chael, and how did you get him to be so involved in your promotion?
Yeah, Chael's awesome guy. He's somebody that believes in giving back, obviously, and stuff. So I competed on his event a couple times, the Submission Underground, which was, during COVID, it was the biggest promotion out there, putting shows on. I competed in one of his biggest tournaments for $10,000 and to compete against Mason Fowler, an open weight tournament. So I kind of built a little bit of name there, competing, winning matches on his show. And then when it came time to his promotion, stopped doing shows and stuff, and so when I started mine, I thought, you know what, who's the guy do I want to bring out that's going to make a big impact, that people are going to say, hey, this is a legit promotion. And I called up Chael and talked to his publicist and everybody, and he just felt it was the right thing to do, which was amazing for us. It really set the tone for us. We put it in Riverfront Park underneath the lights. I mean, other than the Sphere, it's a very amazing venue. You can't really get that kind of a venue anywhere else. The lights, it does a light show and stuff like that. So I wanted Chael to be able to come and experience that and see what it was like, and he just loved it. He thought it was a great thing. So we hope to continue working with him, in the future. He's, Chael just keeps going up though. His stock keeps rising, so it's hard to get him here a little bit, but
yeah, he's one of the big guys in the game right now. Same like Kiesa. I mean, Kiesa's on the freaking UFC broadcast every Saturday. It's like, man, it's so crazy. Just like out of Spokane, Washington, how many different avenues there are to the biggest promotion in the world.
Yeah, and even just like that, especially guys, like that. Kiesa's opening doors for other athletes, especially in this area. The experience that he passes down to other guys. I know I've worked with Kiesa in the past, and he's somebody that's going to help some other guys get those same kind of opportunities. So how cool is that? That one of the day, in the future, we have one of our guys, and maybe the next to Joe Rogan on the big events would be cool.
Wild, yeah. Zach Schneider. He's our he's our jiu-jitsu instructor here at Mode.
Yeah, so. Zach's been on my event almost every one of our events. He's put on great performances. He's the most exciting fighters that you can watch out there compete. He's jumping and flipping and going. He's competed at Combat Worlds every year and stuff. And he beat Diego Lopes, in a combat jiu-jitsu match. So he's legit.
Yeah. Yeah, Zach is a savage. UFC Fight Pass, and we got him right here at the Mode campus. Like he's doing classes, trying to build this place up.
Yeah, it's for me. I've done martial arts forever, and even though I'm not always the most perfect person ever, you want people to lead an academy or a program that's a really good person. Zach Schneider is a guy that's a good person. He teaches kids. He's got a good family. He's got kids of his own. He's a PE teacher, and when you look at his lifestyle, you look at his past and what he's done in his life. Man, that's the guy that you want to stand behind. Sometimes you can get people out there that do things and people are standing behind him. You're like, that's not the right person, but he's the right person. I like that guy.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to get into, I saw you at Austin Arnett's show, Clearwater Combat.
Yeah.
And you had a couple guys, I think you went undefeated that night. I think all your guys went out there and finished.
Yeah, it just kind of goes back to the young athlete thing. We had three guys that fought there, and three guys that fought the same night at Rick's show in Spokane, and
Right.
we went 6-0. We had everybody won. They all won within pretty decisively and put on good performances. These are young guys that are training every single day, 6-7 days a week. We do cardio workouts on Sundays. We do Saturdays mornings. They some of them are coming right after school. We have after school class for some of these high school kids and stuff, and it's really good to have them have that kind of influence in their life, and to see those kind of opportunities afford for them. Austin's show is amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy really puts the same thing that I try to do. Make it good for the athletes.
Yeah.
Hotel rooms for guys that are traveling from out of town, organized. He communicates very well with the athletes, and that's huge, especially when you're a new fighter and you're going to those things. So every one of my guys had the best experience, and we'll be back there to continue fight for many years. His dad put on the show for a long time. I even competed on that show, and his dad competed. And Austin's a long-time martial artist. I used to compete on the same karate tournaments as him when we were kids, and this kid was phenomenal.
Yeah.
I mean, you watch him. You got to watch him do some kata sometime. He could do a 3-sectional staff, which is a very difficult weapon to use, especially in traditional martial arts. And he could spin it over his back and over his.
Wow.
I mean, stuff. You got to see it to believe it, almost kind of thing. So to watch this guy, take over his dad's role of putting on a beautiful promotion and be at the same professional level as his dad, and just really trying to improve. Plus, he's out there competing still at the highest levels.
Yeah, he's still doing it. He really loves. This is one question I like to ask people that come in here. Arnett. It seems like he loves fighting. Like he could retire, but he still wants to go out there and put on a show. For you, do you the whole process? Do you love to? Do you like fighting?
I love it. Like I said, even sometimes too much. I had double hip replacements, and even after I had my hip replacements, I've been back out to fight for some big organizations, Fury, and been co-main events for those big promotions, and fought really tough guys that went right onto the UFC right after that. So I put myself right back into the fire of things, even after having that injury. Part of it was to prove to myself I could still get back out there and compete, but also because I just love it so much. I love getting ready for it. When you have a goal and you're working towards something, it keeps the rest of your life on track, and so all of a sudden you're like, I know I'm gonna fight. I'm not eating those extra Doritos. I'm not hanging out with those buddies because all they want to do is go have whatever things.
Yeah.
And that's never good. It never makes you feel good the next day. But man, after you train and you got this motivation for, you're like, I'm there. The next day is always exciting because you're ready to keep going.
What are the nerves like for you before stepping in the cage?
The nerves, especially, they never go away. I think especially, you compete big. My last fights, they're on UFC Fight Pass, and they're in big arenas, and the cameras and everything. And so by the time you get to that point, it's like your elevation in the sport rises, and so you're just like, okay, the walkouts are bigger. There's fire shooting off. There's motorcycles next to you and stuff, and so that kind of takes things up a little bit. But I tell you what, once the cage door shuts and you get in there, and the referee's about to say go, everything goes out the window. It's the same thing. Like, you're just ready there to do it. So mostly just a little bit before.
Are you retired at this point, or are you still is there a fight that would get you back?
No, I still like to compete. I still feel like I have a lot of unfinished business. Still I still have to recover. Hip replacement's a pretty major surgery. People even say you could never get back to. That's what the doctors tell me. You can never do jiu-jitsu again. You can never compete again. And I got back out there and competed. And so, like I said, I feel, I don't know. I don't need to take any. I don't even take any supplements. Not even creatine. And I feel like mine's just raging. I'm still ready to fight every day. The guys at my gym know, because I train with everybody, Noah and stuff every day. I don't feel like I've pulled off the gas pedal at all. I'm just feeling better and better. And I mean, I think honestly, as technology gets better, I'll probably be able to pick up any lack of energy I might have in the next little bit. But I've had a couple offers actually, but I was out of town in Italy, so I couldn't fight for Fury. But hopefully I get a fight down there here in maybe next year.
Does being in the corner and coaching, does that kind of give you the same adrenaline boost like that fighting did, or is it a little bit different?
It's a lot different. I like to be in the corner for the guys and watch my athletes go out there and stuff like that. But there's nothing that really can, that feeling of getting out there in the cage and fighting. I'm like, I swear, it's like I'm just such an innate fighter. Like somebody looks at me wrong and I'm just like, what? Like kind of like that's just my inside my personality. So I'd love to be out there, like I said, and coach and stuff. But in the end, I'm like, I just want to be out there.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I remember that Clearwater show was wild. Like, I just remember your guys coming in, dominating, and then I think you just left. You're like, all right, peace out.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
out.
yeah.
Like,
I honestly don't like, staying too long in the fights, just because I've been to so many fights now. Like you go to so many fights. I know exactly, it's a hurry up and wait game in the beginning, and we're already there 3 hours before the show starts, and I tape everybody's hands. I'm already nervous for my guys the whole time.
yeah.
And so by the time I get done, I mean, my armpits are sweating out and stuff. I feel like I smell. I'm just going home, dude. I think nobody wants to even talk to me now,
Yeah.
so.
Is there anybody like in the gym right now that's like really exciting you, like as far as their future?
Yeah, actually, I really do have a few guys that are doing a great job. We have Zach DeVos, and that kid, last time he was on Rick's show, and his first fight, and he went out there and fought a kid that had fought like 10 times. And usually when you fight as like one of the first fights on the card, and that's kind of a good thing for you, because you don't have to wait all night. Zach fought as one of the last fights on the card, and he had, it was his first fight. So when you see a level of professionalism in an athlete like that off the bat, then you go, this is special. He waited. He had other athletes that fought from the team before him. He was very professional backstage, the walkout after the match. And so it's something we also work on, ahead of time. Hey, what does it look like when you're standing out there in the cage? We do a lot of role playing, a lot of talking, but even before that, this kid's mentality, he's just ready for it. I've even taught him I coached him even before I even coached Brady Houston. And so this kid has been somebody that's he's seen the progress. He's seen where the sport can go, where he can go with the sport. He's ready mentally to go through all those battles. And like I said, I'm excited to see what he does in the future. And of course, I got Noah. Noah's 1-0 now as a pro. He's a black belt now in jiu-jitsu. He is physically better than he ever has been. He looks like one of those statues that we saw in Greece. He's strong. He's working out every day. It gets me a little nervous when I grapple with the kid, because I don't want to get tapped out by him or anything, or honestly punched by him. He can punch really hard, and I know a lot of people have seen it and stuff, so I'm excited to see what this kid does. But most important, he's the best example for all the students we have, and it's cool.
Yeah, it looks like he definitely plays the role of getting these young kids ready and showing them the right way to do things. And I think he's a savage. I remember he fought Chance Haskins and just cut right through him at one of Rick's shows. So yeah, he's a guy that I think will go very far in this sport. And personality wise, he's just stone.
He's stone cold. And exactly. It's like, even something we have to work on, because he's like not the most, like, if you try to sit here and have a conversation with him, that's not his forte. But I tell you what, when he's in front of the kids and when he's out there in the fights and stuff, that's when he performs. And I'm okay with the back end stuff. I always joke with him and say I'm going to be his interpreter, because he's like, we're just going to pretend he doesn't speak English, and he can just sit there and he'll make faces, and I'll just say, Noah thinks everything was great. That's just to help him.
You did mention Brady Houston, and we can chop or whatever we need to do, but I had him on the podcast. He said some things. I don't know if you had a chance to watch it or hear anything that he said. What is your story with Brady, and how did that relationship kind of end up the way it is?
I didn't actually see no podcast. I don't even watch hardly any podcasts, to tell you the truth. Even my buddy Ben Greenfield, I haven't seen too many of his podcasts, and he's like really famous at it. So, no, I don't really know. So I don't really know what to say. I've known Brady since he was like 6 years old. His dad, actually, and his mom were somebody that I used to talk with, like friends, like almost like this. I was 18 years old, and his parents would come in and drop him off, and I would talk to his parents and stuff. And then in his life, his dad passed away, and that was kind of hard for him and stuff. And it was even hard, I think, for his whole family's brother and stuff like that. The coolest thing for him is that he took that into the next step of his life. He started training every single day, this kid never missed a day from the day after his dad died. I'm not joking.
Damn.
I mean, the day after, his mom called me that day and said, Brady's dad died. This is the most honest. He's punching holes in the wall downstairs. He's very upset. And, can he come to the gym? Never once did he miss a day after that. It was incredible. I mean, even after he was 15 years old and we went to a competition and he had just kind of started back and he had lost the competition, his first tournament, and I felt so guilty. I was like, oh crap, here I am. His dad just died and now I took him to this competition in Portland and he lost, and even after losing that first competition, the kid was right back in the gym. And every single day, I mean, he was just right behind me. I went to some big level stuff. He watched me compete. He got that experience of seeing some big shows, and we got him onto some big level grappling events and stuff in Seattle, which helped him build a name, a grappler's name in the Northwest. And then he did some fights. He fought since he was young too. He was 16 years old and he did his first fight. And since then, people were like, oh wow, look, there's a 16-year-old kid out there fighting. And like I said, it's hard to live the most perfect life all the time.
Yeah.
This is a sport where you have to be a little ruthless. You have to have that street fighter mentality. You have to have that like street thuggish kind of a thing. And I have a little bit of that. I'm a little bit more of that. Like, I grew up very poor. I grew up fending for myself. I didn't have much. People didn't give me money. I didn't, everything was a dogfight in my life, and it still is to this day. And that doesn't always mesh with somebody or with people that don't have that kind of experience also as well. You end up being a little bit different, and sometimes that can come to a head. And like I said, especially when you're that cage fighter, dog fighter, you're not always the most perfect person in the world.
Yeah.
And I'm always, and it's like that. I say that, and I'm the most honest. It's not something I'm gonna, run away from or something. I can go ahead and say, in my early 20s, I wasn't the most perfect person in the world, and bummer for me, but I tell you what, I work all the time to be the best I can, and still, I'm not the most perfect person in the world.
Yeah.
One thing that somebody had told me recently was like, success isn't a straight line. It's like this, and sometimes when you go down, and it can affect people as well, but the most important thing is to keep moving up. So when it comes to Brady, I'm the most happy for him that he's made what he has. Everything I tried to do for him in the past was to try to set him up for the success that he has now. We got him to 4-0 as a professional fighter. I was in his corner through every one of his amateur fights, and everything that I did for him led him to that ultimate goal of getting to the UFC.
Yeah.
Even introducing him to Rick Little. Rick was like I said, Rick was a friend of mine. And as soon as Brady started, making waves, I was like, Rick, dude, I have this kid. He's good. Come, you got to see him. Got him on Rick's shows and stuff. Rick could come out and show some stuff. And we even had talked. I'm like, Rick, I need you to take this kid, because I don't have, at the time I started going through my hip replacements and I was getting really depressed for myself as an athlete, and it's like, here I am coaching this kid that's doing fantastic and everything I want him to do, but I physically can't even move. And I was like having a really hard time with that myself, And anybody that goes through an injury out there might understand a little bit about kind of what that does and how hard it is to always interact with everybody else the best of way. I would get severe inflammation in my groin. It would be, painful at me at times. And instead of, being the most eloquent, sometimes you're a little bit different. And so, I wish I could change things in the past and be the, and make everything perfect and stuff. But like I said, even in my past, my life, what I've done in that everybody can see is my best. I've always tried my best, and that's it.
It's all you can really ask for. And I mean, I'm a big believer in, everything happens for a reason. And, Brady is now undefeated in the UFC, and he's, in my opinion, one of the top bantamweights in the division. He matches up with the top 5 very well, I feel like. So, I mean, Yeah, everything happens for a reason, and I think Brady will realize his dream and achieve that goal. And I feel like you were a big part of that. Do you have any regrets, or do you have any big regrets, or something that you wish you could have done differently, just in general in your life?
Yeah, I mean, so like I said, it's hard for me to say. You really hit the nail on the head. Everything happens for the reason. Brady is doing exactly what he amazing, and at the same token, now I have three academies, and I have the biggest promotion in the Northwest that's on flow grappling, and I'm a promoter that's in a level that's hard to get to.
Hmm.
I'm putting on big tournaments and things like that. And one of the things that was great for Brady was that when he was coming up, I was 110% dedicated to coaching him, and I was there anytime, hitting pads and stuff like that. But at the same time, it took away from my own life.
Mm.
It made it really hard for me to do things that were good for me because I was so focused on kind of on this athlete. And in my head, I always remembered the phone call his mom told me, hey, can you please help him? And I just took that to heart. I'm a very like emotional person. And so now that, because of that kind of split, it helped him kind of go off and go to his pathway, but it also helped me go down the pathway that's helped me help a lot of people. And so, I mean, there's a ton of athletes now that I've not only paid but scholarshiped, and it's helped me grow a team now where I have 16 fighters and stuff, and brought up Noah and stuff. So I don't have any regrets as far as, because things have worked out, fantastic for me. I keep trying to be a good person, and people see that. They don't see I'm not, just because I had a falling out with somebody doesn't mean I was a terrible person doing bad things. No, I was a struggling person that's working for good, and luckily the community still saw that, and now I can continue to what I'm doing, which is that make a pathway for younger athletes to do something better with their lives, and keep some consistency. And I think that's great. Do I wish I would have been more eloquent in things whenever of course, I've gotten angry at people and like yelled at people at times where I'm like, dang, I shouldn't have done that. So that's, I think, what I'm most, I would say regretful for.
Well, mid-July, you got this big, massive show at the pavilion. I guess, yeah, let's just talk about that real quick. And yeah, what can fans expect summertime at the pavilion?
June 7th, or, I'm sorry, July 17th, we just moved the date now to July 17th. So it's a Thursday. It's middle of July, Spokane, underneath the pavilion. The light show that they do, it should be hot, nice weather out in the evening. We'll have acai bowls and lemonade stands and food vendors, and we'll have, you can buy gis and boxing gloves and stuff like that. I'm really hoping how we have a cool martial arts party down there, and we'll have some amateur cage fights. But I think they're going to be amateur cage fights that everybody's going to be like, wow, those could have been pro level fights. Or I'm matching people on there they're athletes that have been training for a while. They all come from gyms with coaches. They're going to have coaches there with, corner buckets and doing everything the right way and stuff. And a little less of the guys that are just going to come out of the woodworks. So we're going to have great level of competition there, and the most iconic, beautiful venue in the state almost. This is something that's a turning point for martial arts, even in the Northwest, just because we're able to bring it to some of this amazing venue like this in Spokane. I hope that it elevates everybody's academies. I hope that we get some people down there that are just interested in martial arts, and they're younger, and they see some of these 16 and 17-year-olds fighting out there, and they go, hey, I could do that too. They're 13, 14. They hear some of their stories that they started when they were 13 and 14, and then some of those kids that are at middle school say, hey, look up their local gyms and start training. This is an opportunity for us to help elevate everybody's academy, the sport itself, which I really look forward to, bringing it to the heart of Spokane. The same thing our tournament's done. It's been able to, you don't want to play soccer if you don't get to compete in soccer. And it's hard for us to be able, but when you can compete in soccer and you have the big, beautiful fields like they build around Spokane, now all of a sudden you want to play soccer because you have that opportunity.
Yeah.
We're going to do the same thing here for Spokane combat fighters. We got the nicest venues for jiu-jitsu grappling events. We got the biggest, best venues for MMA events and kickboxing matches. So hopefully that brings in some of those younger athletes.
Yeah, I Yeah, it's gonna be a while. That's the same thing I do is also trying to like tell these fighters stories and like and get people excited for these fights and try to elevate the sport, try to get more eyeballs on it. What's the matchmaking process for you and do you have a main event? Do you how many fights do you have booked for this thing?
Sure, we're still nailing down our main event. We should have about 15 fights for it. You know what I do when I go for the matchmaking is usually I approach the coaches and I go to the coaches and I say, hey, who do you got that wants to fight? And I like to go to the coaches first because they have an idea of who's ready. They have an idea, they're going to be there to support them and stuff. And sometimes you can just put out there who wants to fight, and you get the guy that doesn't train or anything, and then he comes out and brings the level of the show down. When
Right.
you watch some guy go out there and just get smoked by another guy, everybody's like, well, that wasn't even cool. But
Yeah.
when you go out there and you watch, people that are equally matched, and it's a good match, all of a sudden I'm like, oh, this is a good show. This is something I want to watch. I want to see these technical battles. So you can have some amateur fighters that are in the same level and put on a really good fight. It doesn't even have to be like Khabib and Dustin Poirier. You don't have to do something like that. It
Yeah.
can be two amateurs that are, as long as they're the same level, size, weight, age, all that kind of stuff. So that's really what we're looking at. We have 16-year-olds that are going to fight some 16-year-olds. That should be really cool because some girls 16-year-olds. One's wrestler, and then I have a
Nice.
student that's a jiu-jitsu girl, and they're going to fight each other. One trains at AKA, one trains at my gym. I have some 16-year-old boys that are going to fight each other. They've done grappling against each other twice. They're 1-1 against each other in grappling, and they're training every day for this MMA fight. So, like I said, one of those kind of opportunities that brings some of these younger athletes some notoriety, the experience to get out there, and they're going to do it in the best venue, dude. I mean, I wish I could get out there and compete at that
Yeah.
venue.
As for your first fight under the pavilion.
Yeah, I mean, dude, I even compete now, and it's like you go to these big arenas and fight in these arenas, and they're still not even as cool as when you look up and there's a spiral of lights around you. It's just the coolest, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah. One thing, yeah, I feel like there's a lot of beef between gyms in this town, so it's like hard to put fights together a lot of the times, and so you like the best gyms don't want their best guys fighting the other best gyms best guys, so you know, and I'm always just I just want to see the best fights. I want to see the top guys go against the top guys, and I understand it doesn't make sense sometimes at this regional level to do that, but I'm always over here like, hey, we don't need these big promotions like Fusion or whatever. Like, we have everything we need right here to tell these stories, to capture these moments, and to put on the best fights.
You absolutely, that's the truth. There is a lot of great talent here. When you fight in your hometown, it's a lot better for you as an athlete than when you have to travel somewhere else.
For sure.
And I've fought a lot of times in other cities and stuff. Where they have hometown advantage, and that's not always fun. So the goal, especially with this promotion, is to create more opportunities for these athletes to fight in legitimate places, and that'll get us some more opportunities to work with other coaches and say, hey, look, we're doing this at Riverfront Park. It's the best venue. You get to be hometown hero. Everybody's hometown hero. Your fans and friends and everybody get to come watch you and stuff like that. You don't have to have them travel and stuff. That starts to get the coaches to work with each other a little bit better. So I don't really think that anybody is. I don't really think that there's that like that. I mean, I own 3 academies around, and like I said, I don't think any of the gym owners are like, no, I don't like that guy. I'm not going to help him out or anything. And if they are, good on them, like whatever. But I mean, I'm definitely not like that. We fight Rick Show, whoever. If you call us and invite us and you want to put us, I don't pick our fights. We had 6 guys that fought, like I said, and I didn't pick any one of their fights. Somebody said, "Here's the match. We're going to fight."
Yeah.
But what I'm looking for as a gym owner and as a coach is a legitimate promotion, something that's going to be safe, something that's going to be legit. Is it going to be good for my athlete? So if you have all those things in place, and then somebody says, "No, we don't want to be a part of it," then that's something wrong with that person. And you can't really do anything about that. So whatever, just
Yeah.
move on to the next kind of thing. But like I said, now there's enough athletes and stuff around that if anybody wants to just protest somebody else's event, oh well, so what?
I try to I want to capture all the fights. I know we got Pablo doing his new promotion. I think it's TFL.
Mm-hmm.
He just opened up in a new venue, so he's doing big things. Obviously, Rick Little's show, Excite Fight. I'm going to be at Muckleshoot on Saturday. I'm going to drive out to Auburn for that. And then we have your promotion. And then I do another one out in Montana for Rob McCaskill. I don't know if you
Oh
know
yeah,
him,
yeah.
but he also he's doing his own show, no casino involved. So
Oh,
that's a whole
nice.
nother beast. I feel like it's like
Yeah.
the casino takes a lot of the, you know, takes a lot of the work out of it. Putting on your own show, I can't even imagine.
Totally, yeah. The casinos, they have a lot of things of their infrastructure on how they put on lights and
Yeah.
cleaning and towels or whatever, this and that. So it's really weird, It's like when I do my events, and all of a sudden you got to remember, like, oh shoot, I forgot towels,
Yeah.
or something for sweat. I forgot like the bleach to clean the mats off. It's like all of a sudden you're responsible for these little things that you can go to these venues and they've kind of got it all
Yeah.
done for, and that's the benefit of the casino. Our next one's not going to be on Casino Land, and we're working with the commission, the state commission. So that, like I said, I want to do the best for all of these athletes, the young athletes, and unsanctioned events. Not that they're a bad thing, but the beauty you get with a sanctioned event is that that it's safe for the athletes. And when you're talking about young athletes,
Yeah.
first fighters, you want to give them the best benefit of the doubt. Last thing you want is one guy to go out there and get some kind of disease because somebody else has something and stuff. It's their first fight, or to not have rules that are regulated. Maybe first fight, amateur level, a little bigger gloves. Sometimes people like the shin guards and stuff like that, but our events, we're going to use, we'll use 6-ounce gloves for the amateurs and stuff. I want everybody to go out there and get the experience. I don't want, everybody loves the big bloodthirsty knockout, but we want to see a little bit some technical MMA. It's good for these guys to get that experience, and nobody also wants to see a 16-year-old get knocked out unconscious.
Yeah.
So
Maybe by another 16-year-old.
yeah.
But yeah, I will. And at Clearwater, I'm always just focused on like capturing that moment because I feel like that's these fighters' resumes is those
Totally.
highlight reel knockouts. So I'm just like so dialed in and trying to capture that moment in the best way possible for them, so that they can show this to whoever they need to get to the next level.
Yeah, and something it's also a part of just being an athlete, and I mean, you almost provide this like invaluable service sometimes, and it's unfortunate when some of the young guys don't understand the benefit of it. If you get a chance, like to do a podcast right here, I mean, like I said, I have 3 schools, I have a whole bunch of stuff, but this can even be a benefit for me, being able to get my story out there, even if only 10 people watched the thing and heard. 10 people will start to talk about you,
Yeah.
and then that's how you build your reputation. So
Yeah.
getting some of these young guys to see that these opportunities are how you move your career forward. If you want to be here, and I tell my guys this when I'm at the gym, listen, I actually really don't want to coach MMA too much because a lot of people are selfish fighters and stuff. And if I'm going to coach it, and I have these dedicated athletes that are good and they're young and I've raised them for a while and I'm going to coach it, I only want to coach people that want to be champions. I don't want to coach you if you don't want to be a champion, because now you're going to bring the whole level of all we're training down to this level because you just want to play pixie sticks. Okay, so we're here, we want to be champions, and with that, you need to live that kind of lifestyle, and social media is the way to get yourself to the next level. And so if you're not seeing these opportunities with that champion mentality, like, hey, I've got this clip, I mean, you find somebody that that gets a good knockout, and they repost that clip 500 times, and then on the 499th time it got like 20,000 views. And now everybody knows who they are. It's kind of funny like that. So it's a great service that you do.
And I love when fighters like understand it and like want to get in the camera's face and really want to promote themselves, in the best way. And I'm always searching for those fighters like they understand the game and understand how to promote themselves. It's hard because you put a camera in people's faces, a lot of the time they shell up.
Totally.
But did you ever? How did you go about like promoting yourself in your fight career? And did you ever have like any fights where there was animosity and you had to like talk crap or whatever about the guy or anything like
Gosh,
that?
I did actually have this one. I fought in Hawaii a few times, and in Hawaii it's pretty cool because, like, Hawaiians are a little different. Man, everybody wants to fight all the time. I love that because I'm that kind of guy, like I said, a dog fighter. Kind of, you look at me weird and we want to fight. And I fought in Hawaii, and before I'd fought there a couple times already, and one time when I went to go fight there, the guy that I was supposed to fight, he now fights. He fought in the UFC, and he had to back out of the fight like 2 weeks before that we were supposed to fight, and so I got another opponent. And so I fought that guy, and before he backed out, I was like, oh, you're just scared. I was just trying to create some animosity online and stuff like that. And like when you mess with one Hawaiian, you mess with all the Hawaiians. And so we started kind of talking back and forth. We ended up rescheduling the fight, and then I fought him later, a few months later. And the whole time we were kind of like talking back, oh, I'm gonna kick your butt, blah 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 blah. And his name is Coconut Bombs, And so he's a hard hitter, real strong kid, Anyways, we get out there and we fight. And he hit me good, he was good, and he ended up getting me into a guillotine up against the fence. I mean, we came out like two bulls, dude, just went boom. I hit him a bunch, he hit me a bunch, and then we got in a scramble. I tried for a takedown. He ended up reversing the takedown. It was just a dogfight, like quick match, and then caught me against the cage with a guillotine. And after he caught me against the cage with a guillotine, there's a video actually online. Is I'm sitting there, he backs off to jump around the cage, and some guy had like been following us online, and we're in a big arena, the Blaisdell Arena in Hawaii, like on Oahu, and some guy had run past the security up to the cage. And he runs up to the cage, and I kind of see him out of the corner of my eye. He grabs the cage. He goes, "Ah, motherfucker, fuck you!" And I looked at him. I saw him say that, and I climbed the cage. I jumped out of the cage, and I went to go punch him in the face. As soon as I jump over the security guard, and as I'm about to grab him, the other security guard catches me in the air because the guy's backing up. He's like, no, like this. And they catch me, throw me back up against the cage. And then the people just start coming down from the stands to come fight me and stuff. Anyways, they had to escort me back out of like the thing and with the cops for the rest of the day and stuff. And I was obviously yelling at him like, I'll fight all you Hawaiians. Like, F you. I was like, flipping him off and stuff like that,
That's awesome.
Anyway,
that's a good story. Well, I think that's good. Thank you for coming on. Anything you want to leave the people? Anything else you want to say before we wrap this thing up?
No, I hope I can see everybody out there in July. It's July 17th. Not only just to support the event, but to support the young athletes, to support the fact that we're growing combat sports in the area. Hopefully, trying to create some good opportunities for some people to not only enjoy the fights, but go out there and watch some young people grow their careers, be a part of it. So, if you're somebody that wants to be a part of the event, maybe want to fight or have a booth, a vendor booth, or something like that you want to come down and support some of these combat athletes. These are kids that could definitely benefit from different companies being able to sponsor and stuff too. So yeah, hit us up. Let me know. I'm on Facebook, or you can get me a professor at smashbjjspokane.com and or find me on social media.
Boom, Smash BJJ. Look him up. Instagram. July 17th. The Pavilion, downtown Spokane. It's going to be an amazing night. Get your tickets. I don't know if tickets are already available.
They'll be available soon.
Keep an eye out. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you hit the like, subscribe, comment. Appreciate every single one of you. Thank you. Peace.
Perfect.